My name is Justin, and I am a son of God and an addict, and the host of the RICO 12 speaker meeting. And thanks to my God, the steps, and the fellowship of other addicts, I am living in the relative happy, joyous, and free that is promised to those living in recovery, and have been very active in the rooms of recovery since September of 2013. Welcome to the 110th meeting of RICO 12. RICO 12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented many fellowships and identify with addiction with such variety as alcoholism, drugs, food, sex, gambling, theft, codependency, and all of the anon groups, just to name a few. We invite recovering addicts with at least 1 year sobriety and who are actively working their recovery in their respective fellowships to share their experience, strength, and hope on a live Zoom webinar each Friday at noon Central Time. And they share for about 20 to 25 minutes. Then we, the live audience, get the opportunity to ask questions of that speaker for another 20 to 25 minutes. If you're hearing this meeting in recorded podcast form and would like to participate as a live audience member in the future, please go to www.reco12, that's RECO12.com, to learn more and to submit your email address there to receive weekly invitations. RICO 12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us working our 12th step in this manner. We gratefully accept contributions, and I'll put the link in the chat of the live meeting and in the show notes of the podcast if you would like to contribute. We look forward each week to receiving the light reflected by our speakers from their higher power. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now, let's introduce our guest speaker for today, Michael S. And Michael's chosen topic is relapse prevention. Now, here's a bit about Michael. Michael has been in a variety of 12-step fellowships over the last 8 years. His primary fellowship is AA, but currently he is most active in SLAA and CODA. Michael's favorite topic to talk on is emotional sobriety, but he'll be talking today about relapse prevention, and I'm sure emotional sobriety will be mixed in there. He has been practicing as a licensed psychotherapist and life coach for the last 20 years, and he and his family live in the southwestern suburbs of Chicago. Michael, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Justin. I just want to let everybody know I have not been this nervous. Maybe decades, literally decades. I do a lot of speaking. I've speak a lot of meetings. I've been here before, and my heart is pounding, and I'm nervous. And I've been lacking this feeling for such a long time. And I've been praying to God, God, help me figure out what's next. Help me continue to work my program, and I surrender. And I did a men's workshop or men's retreat, the New Warriors weekend, about 20 years ago. And I got an animal name called the blue hummingbird. And as some of you know, the blue hummingbird, it flaps its wings really, really fast. And it goes at very high rates of speed. But it gets tired very easily and has to rest. And recently I was at a retreat in Nashville, Tennessee, a recovery retreat. And I had to pick an animal card. And the animal card I picked was the turtle spirit. And a little saying that went under the turtle spirit was slow and steady wins the race. And since then, I don't like that animal card. I don't know how to do that very well. As an addict, I'm very impulsive. And if you want somebody to get things done, to produce results, to make things happen, I'm your man. But I've really been sitting with and praying with, God, help me do what I need to do, the next right action. Help me take care of what's in front of me and be grateful and enjoy my blessed life. A coach of mine said to me years ago, Michael, stop tolerating your blessed life. And that stuck with me for many years. And it's hard to just sit still and realize that I'll talk a little about this in a little while. I'm not good with dating sites, and I haven't been too good with dating over the last 7 years since I've been divorced. And so I say a prayer every morning, which is, God, help me to continue doing my work, continue growing, to continue being the man I want to be. And whatever woman is out there, help her do the same. Help her become the woman she needs to be and recover and heal her wounds. And when the time is right, bring us together. And that's all I could do. And same thing with my job. I've been really burned out as a psychotherapist for many years. I actually took a sabbatical about 3 or 4 years ago and took 6 months off. And I came back and I was kind of rejuvenated. And for me, the definition of burnout is not that I'm working too hard. It's doing something that I know is not producing the results that I wanted to produce. And I know I can't get 100% behind what I'm doing. And I just don't know what the next thing was. I didn't know what the next right thing is. And I think I found it. And I'm going to share about it a little today. And I had no clue what I was going to speak about until I was in a shower this morning and I had a spiritual experience. Now, a spiritual experience for me is, I don't know where it comes from. To me, you hear the phrase grace, or by the grace of God. And grace stands for me, God responds and can't exits. And this came to me, God responds and can't exits. And I said, I can't share about this. Justin doesn't know about this. I don't know how you guys are going to react to this. And I spent the last hour and a half. I had a new client from France today. And I also have a new client actually from Saudi Arabia. I've never worked with that many people internationally. But I got off the phone at 9:30 Central Time with him, 10:30 Central Time with him, and spent the last hour and a half writing out what I want to say. And I don't like writing out what I want to say. I usually just do what I'm doing now, but I had to write this out and I'm going to talk about it and read it. And I'm probably going to end a little early because I know there's going to be questions around this one. I don't think I've ever heard anybody speak on this topic in a recovery room. Definitely on your show, Justin. And I know it's going to be controversial, but I'm going to speak it. So let me say a little prayer before I read this. God, grant me the courage and strength to be honest and truthful and real, to actually read what I wrote on my paper, and to realize that to make change, somebody has to have a radical idea, and help me be that person and help me speak my truth as I move forward today. Amen. All right, here we go. My topic to speak on today is relapse prevention. And I'd like to change that topic up a little. I've been part of my many 12-step fellowships over the last 9 years. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. Misery Addicts Anonymous, MAA. Self-Sabotage Anonymous, SAA. Codependence Anonymous, CODA. Sex and Love Addictions Anonymous, SLAA. And I created a fellowship. I don't do it anymore, but it was called 12 Steps for Everyone. And I don't do it anymore. I've struggled with depression and anxiety for over 4 decades. I'm sure I could talk for hours about the different treatments I've tried over the years. I know what I'm about to say is going to be very controversial in the recovery world, but I truly believe that mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, OCD, ADHD, and PTSD, to name a few, and addictions such as alcohol, drugs, sex, and love can be cured. Not just be kept in remission, but cured. I want to live in a world where we can stop using the term relapse prevention. I believe mental illnesses and addictions can be cured, just like broken bones can be healed. And so many diseases we have cures for. When somebody breaks a bone and goes to an orthopedic doctor, they don't just treat the broken bone and keep it from breaking again. They fix the bone. What I know about myself is that as long as I work my spiritual program, I stay in remission for my addictions. I feel I work a really great program. For many years, I've been working a great program. Meetings, working the steps, service, meditation, prayers, sponsoring people, spiritual readings, etc. However, I'm finding my addictions. So I'm going to say it again. However, I'm finding I'm not fixing my addictions. I'm just putting a Band-Aid on them, keeping them in remission. Nothing wrong with that. Way better than where I was when I first entered these rooms. Depression is my main addiction. I first read the big book of AA, and whenever I saw the word, or page 1 through 164 of the big book, and whenever I saw the word alcohol, I just replaced it with the word depression. Here's an acronym I came up for CURED, acronym for CURED, CURED. Could you remember experiencing depression? Could you remember experiencing depression? After being a psychotherapist for 20 years, working mostly with men with depression, anxiety, addictions, and struggling with my own depression and addiction for 4 decades, I'm really dedicating my second half of my life to curing mental illness and addictions. Yes, I do know this is a radical idea, but I do think it's possible. I just finished my third week of TMS therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Every day for 19 minutes for 8 weeks, I drive 45 minutes for 19 minutes to get the treatment. For 19 minutes, I sit in a dentist-like chair. A magnetic device is put on my left front side of my head, and every 11 seconds, quick magnetic pulses go through the coil into my head. It's not ECT, but it uses magnets, and it's similar. It feels like a woodpecker is pecking on my skull. It's not painful at all, but does make my left eye twitch a little. I'm not going to go into great details about how TMS treatment works, but it is FDA approved since 2008 and is covered by insurance. Just in the place, you could put a link here. It's Success TMS. It's a nationwide organization. And I'm not going to talk a lot about TMS, but do some research on it. After the first week of treatment, I saw some miraculous results. I really feel like a lunatic sharing this, because if I heard another person who struggled with depression, codependence, and sex and love addiction like I do, I would really think they're falling off their rocker. But I promise you, I'm not lying. As someone who struggled with addiction and depression, I'm used to constant voices in my head like, I don't have the energy to do that. I'll take care of that later. I don't want to reach out for help. That's not going to make a difference. And plenty of those types of voices. After 3 treatments, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of TMS, not only were those voices and worries and anxieties decreased, they actually were gone. Gone? I don't know where, but they were gone. Over the last 3 weeks of treatments, I've noticed some of those voices and ruminations coming back at times, but the spiritual experience I had proves it's possible for me to cure depression. And I'm only halfway done, not even halfway done with my treatment yet. I've read Michael Pollan's book on his psychedelic experience called How to Change Your Mind, what the new science of psychedelics teaches us about consciousness, dying, addiction, depression, and treatment. I'm just came out, the new Netflix series that he created called Change Your Mind, which is a 4-part series focusing on how LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, and mescaline can help cure mental illness and addictions. Currently, all the substances are illegal in the United States, but MDMA is very close to being approved. I don't have the gentleman's name, but he's been working on it for 50 years, and he just wants to be a therapist who is able to provide this medicine and provide his therapy. And he says after 50 years, he thinks he actually could do his job pretty soon. Many have said with only 3 or 4 doses, along with psychedelic-assisted therapy by a psychedelic therapist, not only have they noticed decreased symptoms, but many feel are cured. Last year, a great friend of mine, David Tucker, who was the executive director of the Pachamama Alliance for 20 years. Man, this is hard to talk about. He died of ALS at the age of 50. David brought hundreds, maybe thousands of people to Ecuador over the years to use the drug and the medicine ayahuasca, a healing medicine. He invited me many, many times, but I was just too scared. I didn't want to go off my antidepressants and my anxiety and my different medications, because as any of you know who take medications, it takes a while to get the concoction, and I was stable for first time in a long time. And he said, you can't come unless you're off those medications. It's one of the reasons I haven't used MDMA, psilocybin, any of those things yet, because I don't think it's safe. I don't know if it's safe to use while I'm on my antidepressants and medications. So I sure hope that one day that changes. So I was scared to go with David. Sure could have wished I would have had the courage to say yes. While David's no longer here, I think he'd be proud of me as I explore TMS and psychedelics. And I believe they're on the cutting edge for mental illness and addictions. I'm going to conclude with reading the top of 31, page 31 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was telling Justin earlier, I got this really small book, and man, I hardly could read, but here it is. And I've been reading this paragraph over and over again for the last handful of weeks. We have tried to imagine, we have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there's been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism, with depression, with sex and love addiction, you fill in whatever that bad habit, that thing you can't stop doing. Physicians who are familiar with alcohol agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. And here's a sentence that to me is just moving. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. I think that time has come. So what else do I want to say? Man, I've still got chills in my body. Haven't prepared anything else to say other than I wanted to share a little. I don't even see the time here. Got some time, good. So I want to share some things where I said this TMS therapy has made things disappear. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't struggle with depression or you're not an addict, this will be like, well, that's no big deal. Like, what? But I want to tell you something. So I was telling Justin earlier, I have a podcast called My Blueprint, Struggle Towards Emotional Sobriety. I started about 4 years ago. It has almost 300, I think 299 episodes now. And it's just my whole life. I decided to, instead of journaling, do a verbal journal. And I just did it for myself. I shared it with a couple people. They thought it was helpful. So I just decided to continue doing it. And I would record, 50, 80 episodes a year, maybe, I don't know, something like that. And February 2nd this year was my last time I recorded an episode. Just stopped, had no interest in doing it. It just was gone. I thought I was done. I'm going to leave it up there. It's really a legacy I want to leave behind for my children so they can listen to me one day. And after only this third treatment of this TMS, out of nowhere, I just did an episode. I don't know why, I just did. And since then, over the last 3 weeks, I probably recorded 5 or 6 episodes. That's just one thing. I'll give you some little examples. Get up in the morning, and I always make my bed in the morning, but it's never right away. It's just like I'll get to it eventually. And it wasn't like a thought or worry. I just made my bed. It wasn't like a rumination. It wasn't anything. I just made it. And I stopped for a second. Like, that was strange. I was pouring coffee in the morning and my creamer was running out. And normally this is my rumination. Like, oh my God, creamer's out. I don't have time to go to the grocery store. Creamer, just stupid little things like that. I noticed just doing things different. Words came out of my mouth that I know I've never spoke some of these words. I moved April 1st, and I've never taken my dog for a walk because we have a big backyard. I just decided just took my dog for a walk and walked in an area of this neighborhood that I lived in for 15 years and never even walked in this area. Just little things like that started showing up. And so, I talked here in my first half of my career, spent, 20 plus years as a cognitive behavioral therapist, as a coach, working with people, and, spent almost a decade in 12-step programs, sponsoring, doing all that. I'll continue to do all that. Not like it's a waste of my time, but I also think you don't hear the word cured when it comes to addiction. It's just not a word. You don't hear the word moderation in the word, you pick up one drink and you're off to the races. For me, I can't do dating. I can't tell you how many times, I've been on and off Match.com over the last 6 years. And the reality is I get a lot of sobriety, 6 months, 8 months. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it again. And guess what? I fall right back into the same old patterns. And now I'm back in the place where I can't date again. I can't interact with women. And people said, well, you're not working your program hard enough, or you must be not doing this. And, I'm just sick of that bullshit. I'm working a hard program, and I'm looking for the day. And I think it's possible where I could be healthy with women. I could use dating sites appropriately. And here comes a controversial one. I think that an alcoholic could pick up a drink and stop drinking one day. I know that's like off the walls, but that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I think is possible. And there's people out there who have, been working a long, long time to try to get some of these medications legal. And they're not considered medications. They're considered illegal drugs. So I'm not going on a tangent there. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions, answers, thoughts, whatever. I don't have all the answers, but I sure know I'm excited about this. And it's getting my heart pumping and giving me a reason to get up in the morning. I haven't had a reason. I just go through the motions. I'm a suburban dude, and I live in a very conservative community, and I have a 16 and a 13-year-old, and I mow my grass. And it's just not me. I'm just not alive. I'm just going through the motions. And to have something that, excites me, that's a big deal for a recovering addict. So thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I think you're right. What you've shared here is in the recovery community quite controversial and everything for those who are hardcore big book and recovery thumpers. And I appreciate your perspective and your willingness, courage to share what you did there. That's awesome. For our live audience, if you have questions for Michael, please type them in the Q&A link there at the bottom of the window. We've got a couple that have come in, and we'll get to those here in just a second. And but before we get to those, I have one question from something that you mentioned, Michael, at the top of your share that really hit me, and I'd love to dig a little bit deeper on that. The quote you said, someone said, hey, stop tolerating your blessed life. Can you dig a little bit on that and share what that means to you and how, how that might relate to me, because I'm selfish about that and I want to know how that relates to me and then to others. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It took me a while to comprehend that. I actually saw your face, Justin, when I said that, and I had the same face, like, stop tolerating my blessed life. Like, what the hell does that mean? And I think I so often just complain about, not having enough money, or I wish I was doing something different, or, for me, it's not sitting back and just being really, really grateful for this amazing life that God has given me, this amazing life that I have now. And I tolerate it. It's like I tolerate it, meaning like I put up with it. Like, poor me, I got this. It's not what I want. I want more of this and more of that, that addict mindset of more, more, more. And it helps me when I can remember that quote, stop tolerating my blessed life, and instead, love my life, be grateful for it, and stop complaining. I guess tolerating to me also, stop complaining, Michael. You complain a lot. That's one thought that comes up.
Thank you for helping me dig on that. I totally resonate with that, man. I've got it good, and yet so often my first thing that I look at is, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
Why do I not have this or that or the other? Or why do I not feel this way or that way? And I think that kind of goes into the next question here that came in from our live audience. This is from Al. And Al asks, he says, Michael, what is your depression like? Describe it. Is it gone after TMS? So how that relates, I think, is why am I always depressed? Why can't I be satisfied with, things the way they are? And I know depression and blessings are a little bit different, or the life I live are a little bit different. But tell us a little bit, what is your depression like? Describe it. And is it gone after TMS?
Yeah. Well, it's a big question. I believe my depression is an addiction, and I'm powerless over my depression. And I didn't know this until about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, my wife asked for a divorce. I was married for 15 years. And I tell people that was the worst of my worst depression. I still struggled depression decades before that, but that was the worst of the worst. And I try to explain to people this. And some people who don't understand addiction or depression, again, think I'm a lunatic, which is I felt like I was possessed. I couldn't get rid of this depression. I had no power to get rid of it. And in the worst of the worst, uncontrollable crying, making my bed was a huge deal. One day I remember I think I talked about this on the last show, that all I could do was go outside and pick weeds. And that was a productive day. Now that was my worst of the worst of depression, like no motivation, felt worthless, didn't want to continue living, but I was too scared to die. That's kind of what I used in my saying. And just loss of interest. And I think the hardest part for me is I knew I was a smart guy. I knew I was educated. I knew I had a lot of worth, but somehow it was this other side of me kept saying, no, you're worthless. There's no reason to live. So that was my worst of the worst, but I call it dysthymia, which is a more of a medical term, dysthymia. If you look it up in the DSM-4, it's long-term depression. It's just kind of like, it's something that's always around me. It's even when I feel great, there's always a heaviness. There's always a sense of, not finding a lot of enjoyment in life, looking for more. And I just thought that's how everybody was for a long time, because like fish don't know they swim in water, kind of that analogy. And it's something that it sucks. Anybody who struggles with depression, it's just, I become impulsive at times because I just want that quick high. And I think it is something that I'm not cured from yet. And no, TMS has not cured it, but there's some glimpses into something I've never experienced for myself before, that there's a possibility that I've never said this before, a possibility for depression to be cured, a possibility for my addiction to be cured. Literally, I don't think I've ever, maybe I thought it, but I've never said those words out loud. Like, that's impossible. Maybe I could, have less depression. Maybe my addiction could be, not so powerful on a day-to-day basis, but to have it go away completely, that's ridiculous. That's my answer.
Thank you, Michael. And I really appreciate, so I'm one that when anybody goes, the cure, there's a scientific cure, there's got to be something out there that will cure addiction that recoils from it. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't compute with my experience, but I really appreciate that you have, you said, hey, this morning while I was in the shower, I had this spiritual experience, and you've talked about spiritual experience many times. And I appreciate that as you share this, you're like, this, what I believe is a scientific cure, perhaps, has not reduced the spiritual experience. Can you share a little bit about how maybe the process that you're experiencing and learning and hope for would still incorporate that connection with a power greater than self in the healing process? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So a lot of these thoughts are brand new. Like, I'm just having this thought. So you ask that question, and my thought comes is, I'll never stop 12 steps. I love 12 steps. I love my different fellowships, spiritual gangsters. That's the one that really, came part of that 2.5 years ago. And, the solution focus, I'll never stop it because if there's a science to fix this or not, to me, I still need a community of people. I still want emotional sobriety. I still want a connection with God. I'm still going to pray and I'm still going to meditate. I just think it will come from a whole different place. I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't even given that thought about it, but I'm Jewish. I still go to synagogue. And I do things. The community part of it, the ability to be of service, to help others, just that environment is healing. I think I've shared on my last episode about 2 years ago, I went to the Meadows for 45 days, Pia Melodies, the Meadows in Wickenburg, Arizona for her love addiction, love avoidance program. And I actually get jealous of people who relapse and get to go back there, which sounds really messed up. But I loved it there. I would live there forever if I could. I just really, really loved it there. And I think the biggest part was you're in a community of people who are all recovery addicts and who are all trying to find a spiritual solution. It's a 12-step based program. And to me, there was nothing better. That was one of the top 5 experiences in my life. So yeah, to answer your question, I think there's this scientific medical solution along with continue going to 12-step meetings, along with still going to psychotherapy, along with still probably taking maybe some antidepressants or medication. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to think more about that one.
Thank you. All right. So another question that this came in from Louisa. Louisa asks, can you please talk more about TMS treatment a little bit and where it is available?
Yeah. So Success TMS, I think, is the biggest one out there, most reliable. I think they use something called Navistar. Navistar is the TMS machine. It's the most credible, I think, machine out there. It's been out for a while. It's not like it's brand new. It's been out since 2007, 2008. I would just do some research. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it. If you put the link, you put transcranial magnetic stimulation, the Mayo Clinic has some good studies on it. I read all the testimonials. Good to hear the testimonials. I liked it for a couple reasons. One is I don't have to go off my medication. And 2, there's no side effects. So I could go there in 19-minute treatment. I drive myself there. I drive myself home. The only thing I've noticed is I'm a little more tired. Some people get slight headaches. I haven't. So for me, I thought it's, cost me, it's an $8,000 treatment, but insurance covers it. It's a $15 copay each time I go. So it's only like $500 for an 8-week therapy. And I thought, well, I talked to my psychiatrist actually about it. She goes, Mike, I don't know why you're trying this because it's usually for people who are really, really, really in bad shape. And I said, well, kind of like what I've done with a lot of things in my life. Well, we give it a try. And I'm pretty excited that I tried it and I'm at a good place when I tried it. So I'm not like in a horrible place. And like a lot of people who do it are suicidal, this is like their last ditch effort. And I've met some of those people, but yeah, I'm as surprised as any listener right now who's hearing this or never heard of it before. I was as skeptical could be coming from the mental health profession, being a therapist, struggling with, the things I struggle with. They're like, what? I don't understand this at all. So, like I said, if I was listening to this, I would think like this guy is like a whack job. Literally, that's what I'd be thinking of.
I'm glad that you're here and sharing that and willing to put yourself out there like that. Really good, really good. And what you're sharing is meaningful to me, I think, and I'm sure to many people. All right, another question from our live audience. This is from Teddy. Teddy says, hey, Michael, I loved your share, and I agree it took a lot of courage to suggest that maybe even people in 12-step programs can also practice a harm reduction approach. I'm wondering, what do you think about the identity of being an addict and how we are reminded that we must never forget who we really are, which is an addict? Do you think that can ever be unhelpful in recovery?
Yeah, that's a good, like these questions that are coming to me. If you would have asked me, a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have had such a different answer. My answer would be once an addict, always an addict. That's what we talk about, right? I'm always an addict. And I need to remind myself I'm an addict because I need to remind myself where I came from, right? And I also have to keep sponsoring people because, as we know, who sponsor people, I get way more out of that relationship than my sponsee. But I do have a belief that maybe not once an addict, always an addict. Maybe once you break your leg, it's not like you always have a broken leg. Once you don't say, well, broken leg, always have a broken leg. No. And there's so many cures from things that it's not, we have some cures for cancer, not a lot of cancers, but we do have some. And you don't say, well, once a cancer patient, always a cancer patient. And so I think we have a lot of room to go in mental health. And I put addiction in the mental health category, which we haven't had really any radical treatments, and anything really brand new in the medical field or the mental health field for like 70 years. We have cognitive behavioral therapy, some therapy and medication. In the addiction world, the big book was written, a long time ago, 30s, 40s, 50s, great book. I'm not a big book thumper. I love the big book. I think it's very helpful. I think I'm not somebody who goes, go to page 67 and there's your answer. I'm just not that. I love the book, though. Just like I love the Old Testament, the New Testament, other things like that. I'm not a big book thumper. I think there's way more out there than just the big book. But we haven't had any, there's even, look at addiction treatment centers. The Meadows is a big one. Betty Ford, Hazelton, Betty Ford, they're struggling. The relapse rate, people go back there 6, 7, 8, 9 times. We don't know how to stop craving. In the field of addiction, Dr. Kevin McCauley, who's a senior fellow at the Meadows, and I really like his work. Dr. Kevin McCauley, I think you can look him up, put a link there for me, Justin. He's done a lot of research, and he said the bottom line is we have a lot of things we could do to stop relapse, for relapse. But the bottom line is we don't know how to stop craving. That craving will never go away. And he said there's a problem with that. And if we could work on finding a way to get that craving to go away, that'd be pretty miraculous. So I don't even know if I answered the question. I don't even remember what the question was anymore, but hopefully sort of that answered the question.
No, I think.
I remember the question. Yeah. So the question is, once an addict, always an addict. I think that could be something in the past. Maybe somebody listens to this episode. I'm hoping 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the line. Remember that crazy guy, Michael, talking about that? And it's just common knowledge that, of course, this is not once an addict, always an addict. And I would love that. If I could leave that legacy behind in my lifetime, again, the shivers go down my body, but I think that would be a fucking amazing legacy. And not just me, I'm coming on the shoulders of people who have been working on this for their whole life, 40, 50 years, since all these medications and all this stuff has been, banned since the, 60s and 70s. These people have been working hard. And so I'm just kind of jumping on their shoulders and kind of moving in a direction. And so that would be exciting.
One of the things you said there kind of tickled my brain. You said, we can't stop the craving. Is that what you think that this process is doing, is just kind of stopping the craving? Maybe not other things? Is it just that craving that we all experience as addicts, that it just,
yeah.
Is that where you think it's going?
Yeah, I think it's stopping the craving, stopping the obsession, the rumination. I think it's actually, it fixes the brain. When I'm doing the TMS therapy and I hear that pecking noise on my head, the thought that goes in my head is, this something this machine's doing? It's fixing my brain. It's like healing it. And I think that's what some of these psychedelics do. It's not just, and they say, 4 or 5 treatments, and then it's not like you got to continue doing it. And they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. They have videos. If you got to watch the Michael Pollan series, that was just, it's 4 different series, and they're all about an hour long. It just came out. I don't know. Maybe it came out last week. I don't know. It's 2022 I saw, but fascinating, smart people. And they have all these testimonials of people sharing their experiences. And it sure woke me up to some things that I was not aware of. So, I think there's a component of, like, a bone heals, that there's something going on in my brain, there's synapses or something going on that needs some fixing. And I think that's what, like, a TMS or maybe psychedelics could fix it. I'm interested in that, a fix.
I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Michael. I'm the reason why it took me a second to get back there is I was doing a quick Google search for Michael Pollan and that
Yeah.
thing so that I could have that link up there. But got another question in here from Al, and it's a series of quick questions here about the same topic. I've heard you say that you are addicted to depression. Why do you feel you are addicted to depression? Isn't depression something you have lived with for a long time, and isn't it kind of a part of you?
Good question. All right. So my definition of addiction, this is my definition of other people might not agree, but my addiction is any thought or behavior that no matter how hard I try, I can't stop. And maybe I can stop, but I only can stop for a day or a week or a month. So somebody who's an alcoholic might be able to stop drinking for a week or a month, but to stay sober over a long period of time, they can't do it. So for me, that's why I put depression in that category, is that I've tried everything. And that for me, when I look at the 12 steps, that the first step is that I'm powerless over this, that my life's unmanageable. And unless I find step 2 and 3, unless I find a higher power, then I'm screwed. And my life is unmanageable, and I need a higher power to bring me back to sanity. And so that sure felt like depression to me. Like I just couldn't solve it. I couldn't stop it. I wasn't like that. I wasn't working hard enough. And so I put depression in the same category as alcohol or sex. And, depression's not the real addiction, right? Alcohol is not the real addiction. Sex is not the real addiction. You've heard people say this over and over again. If you're in the rooms, you hear this over and over again. It's the solution to my addiction, right? We hear this so many times because here's the truth. We as humans, myself as a human, I don't know how to manage these 5 feelings: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and joy. Maybe that's 6. Anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame. Joy, I can deal with it. Joy, I know how to manage. We know how to do that. But because I have no ability, I'm powerless over anger, sadness, fear, guilt, and shame. Nobody taught me. I don't know any role models. My mom and dad did help me with that. No mentors did. And so when we're taught to meditate and sit with these feelings, like, what are you talking about? Like, no, that's why I take a drug. That's why I go have sex. That's why I go get in unhealthy relationships, because I don't know how to deal with those feelings. And to me, if we could do that, and I think that's what 12 steps helps us do with meditation and prayer and doing a 4th step and amends and all those kind of things, then now I could sit with those feelings, and then I don't have to use that behavior or substance to get some relief from those feelings.
Yeah, thank you for walking through that. That helped clarify a few things, I'm sure. All right, another question from Deborah. And Deborah is asking about psychedelics here. Didn't Bill Wilson try psychedelics for depression and it didn't help him? Would this be a different method than what he tried?
Yeah, I don't know much about this. Somebody recommend Pass It On. You ever Pass It On, Justin, that book? I didn't either. I was going to get it from Amazon, but it was so expensive. So Pass It On, I guess it talks a little about in that book, Bill Wilson's experience with psychedelics. I've seen a little about it. I can't answer this question thoroughly at all. I'm going to have to do some research on this one. I don't know, do you, Justin, know anything about this? But no, I don't. Bill Wilson did try psychedelics. And actually, there was some stuff I just saw recently. Again, don't quote me on this because I don't know where the resource I got this from. But there's some information out there that said 12 Steps was created, and the book was created out of Bill Wilson's psychedelic experiences using different psychedelic drugs. And that helped him have spiritual experiences, which led to his recovery of alcoholism. It led to, what we do today. Again, don't quote me on this. I don't know. I'm going to do some more research on that. But if that's true, that'd be kind of cool. But no, Bill Wilson did experiment with psychedelic drugs. And if anybody knows anything about this, please email me, text me, because I am interested. Because as we know, Bill Wilson was quite a character, right? He tried a lot of things. And I know he did try psychedelic drugs, and maybe it wasn't helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't comment on that either. I have no research in that background at all. All right. Thank you for sharing that. We do have one more question that's come in. This is from Scott. And Scott asks, what does relapse in codependency look like? And what measures does one use to prevent codependency, especially when living with an unrecovered codependent? So kind of different direction, but on the general initial topic, absolutely.
Oh man, that's a tough question. I mean, I can't even fake an answer. One of the things I always say, if I ever hear a politician or somebody running for office and somebody asks a question and says, damn, that's a good question, I don't have an answer for that, but I'll think about it or I'll get back to you. Like, I'm going to vote for that person. I don't care who that person is. Like, it's not an acceptable answer. Like, I don't know. I give you some thoughts about codependence. I'm going to throw this thought out. I have a difficult time sponsoring men. I only sponsor men in codependence or SLA. Men who are married or in a relationship with women, in my experience, this is my personal experience, they never make it through the steps. They're really hard to sponsor. And there's two different classes of people, I think, when it comes to CODA or SLAA, is the ones who are single and the ones that are in some type of romantic relationship. And from my experience, there's no way I could work this program when I was married. There's no way I could work this program with a woman in my life because that person became my God. And I don't need 12 steps. I don't need that God. I got my wife. I got my girlfriend. Actually, I had a guy recently say, I want you to sponsor me, but I got these couple of women who are in my life, and can I work the steps while they're in my life? I'm like, no. And then they got really upset with me. I said, well, go find another sponsor because you can't, I don't think you can work the steps because something I learned at the Meadows, which I really liked, our group counselor said, do not start a relationship with somebody here at the Meadows because unhealthy attracts unhealthy. And there's nobody healthy here. And she also said, if you're in a relationship, if you're married or in a relationship, you know, why you came here, it's not a healthy relationship or you wouldn't be here. And so I know somebody who's an unrecovered sex and love addict, somebody who's a codependent and just starting a program, they're in a relationship with an unhealthy person. Because why would that person want to be with me? Because I'm unhealthy. What type of healthy person would want to be with me and be in recovery? No, that person is very unhealthy. So, you know, one of the things I come off as confident. I want to say this. I come off as confident, but I have really thin skin. What do we talk about in recovery? There's like a saying, like I'm a egomaniac with, I don't know what the saying is. Maybe there's some saying they use in 12 steps. Like, but I have thin skin. That's why I can't be like a politician. Can't be like a true leader because those social media posts would kill me. Those people, when, you know, even though I come across confident, I am confident in a lot of things. It's hard to hear criticism. It's hard to hear negative things about me. And I know as I'm speaking today, you know, can I stand up? It's one of my challenges. Can I stand up when people, you know, don't like my ideas? They push back really hard. Certain personalities I can. Other personalities are really hard for me to stand up to because I'm like, damn, they make a good point, or they seem smarter than me or better than me, or man, that guy's super educated. And that's my fear in something like this or anything that I create. I am an entrepreneur. I create things that when a certain personality comes in and kind of bullies me, that it's hard to stand up. And there's not a lot of people out there, I'm sure, listening that's like, yeah, Michael, I believe for 100% there's a cure. And once an addict, you know, always an addict. Nope, that's crap. Like, I can't believe, you know, how many people are like spiritual gangsters, like 2,000. I can't believe there's more than a handful of people that are listening to this and saying, yeah, that's what I've been thinking. And you're right on, you're right on the right path. And that's hard to do for me to stand in that fire.
I appreciate your courage in that. You know, it always takes some courage to stand up. We have two more quick comments that have come in, and three more, and I'll just read through those comments, and then I'm going to ask you to wrap up with some final words of wisdom, and we'll get to our closing readings and stuff here. So first from Louisa. Louisa says, Michael Pollan talks about Bill Wilson's experience in his LSD part of Change Your Mind.
Yes, he does.
So
yes.
That. Next one from Teddy. Yes, Michael, thank you for your honesty. And then a comment from Sam. I disagree that only an unhealthy person would stay with me in my betraying addictive behaviors, because I believe the only reason my wife stays with me is because God told her to do so. Otherwise, I agree with the sentiment. So there's those comments. And anything you want to comment on that before wrapping up with some words of wisdom?
Any of those comments?
Yes.
I just speak the last comment that somebody said. Anybody who's going to be with me, I can't speak for you or anybody else. One thing I love about recovery is I just speak about my experience, strength, and hope. I just know for myself, any woman who was with me is an unhealthy woman when I was at the place of recovery. And most women are, they're codependent themselves. They're trying to save me. And they look like the best wives ever, girlfriends ever, because they stick by me and they, but for me, there's some unhealthiness to that. And I'm not saying they're a great woman, and I'm not saying God didn't put that woman in your life. I can't speak for you. I didn't speak for myself. That most of my relations, when I look at a 15-year marriage, many long-term relationships, other short-term relationships, great women. So I'm not bashing these women, but they're just as healthy as me. And I don't think, we're all unhealthy. We all have mental illness. We all have addictions. So it's not bashing them. It's like, some are worse than others. What do they call them? Some people on spiritual gangsters, like I don't know what the words they use, like the unhealed. I don't know what the name is. So go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Before we wrap up here, Michael, do you have any final words of wisdom for us?
I think my final words of wisdom is this is speaking to myself, but everybody who's listening, that before you write off what I'm saying, it's like, no, that's not possible, or no, once an addict, always an addict. Just like me starting this treatment, like I would not have been saying this 3 weeks ago because it's impossible, but I think we need to stay in the place of, I need to stay in the place, I'll speak for myself, and that things are possible beyond what I think is possible. And I gave that up a long time ago. When people say that anything's possible, I'm like, no, that's crap. But I used to believe that. And if we could actually come for a cure for mental illness, a cure for addictions, the difference that would make in my life, the difference it would make in so many's lives, how much that would change the world, whether it could happen or not, it's sure a game it's a worthwhile adventure for me. And even if I fall short, well, I think we'll make some progress. So stay open-minded, more for me. Stay open-minded and believe that more is possible than I think it is really possible.
Yeah, thank you. And one comment I have on that is, we hear about in recovery, all we need is honesty, willingness, and open-mindedness.
Yes.
And I think this is one of those things where open-mindedness is very necessary. And I think often it's discussed from a different angle, that open-mindedness, but I think open-mindedness means a 365-degree open-mindedness. So I appreciate you bringing this topic up to us. As you mentioned, and as I'm going to follow up with, it's very different than any other speaker meeting that I've done so far. But I think it's very interesting, and I'm grateful that you did that. Thank you so much for being a guest speaker here, and I appreciate that. This was a good RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting for all addicts and those wanting to learn more about addiction and the recovery therefrom. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have other questions to our live audience, please go to RICO12.com and join in our community there on the website, and join our private Facebook group and ask those questions and answer others' questions that will come up there. I invite the audience to come back next week. If you have not yet rated and reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts, please go do so now. It is a great way to work step 12 in sharing this message with others. And next week, we'll be hearing from Thomas, who will speak to us on addiction, recovery, and mental health. I think it'll be a good follow-up to this. Thomas was also a previous speaker on RICO 12 from meeting number 36 way back then. If you wish to check that out again, go check it out. I look forward to hearing from him again next week. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the Serenity Prayer that Michael will lead us in.
All right. My favorite prayer, the only prayer I knew when I first started this program, it still sticks with me. So God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I will. I'll be done. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Michael. Hey, everybody, come trudge this happy road with me. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of